You feel it in your gut, don't you? That quiet shift that feels so loud in your heart, it's almost deafening. Just last week, the connection felt like something special. The conversations were effortless, stretching late into the night, making you feel seen and understood in a way you haven't in a long, long time. The chemistry was more than just a spark. It was tangible, electric, something that promised a real, deep connection. You weren't imagining it. It was real. But now, there's a silence, a hollow quiet that has taken over the space where your good morning texts used to be. The late-night calls, full of laughter and vulnerability, are gone, replaced by an emptiness that feels cold and deeply confusing. And when a text finally comes through, the words are short, polite, and hours too late. It's like talking to a stranger, borrowing the body of the man you felt so connected to, and instantly your mind starts to spin, a tornado of anxiety and self-doubt. You replay every interaction, you analyze every word you said, desperately searching for the moment you might have gone wrong. It becomes an agonizing internal trial, where you're both the prosecutor and the defendant, and the verdict always sounds the same. He lost interest. I made it all up. I'm not good enough. A spiral of self-blame, leaving you feeling small and invisible. But what if that story, the one you keep telling yourself, isn't the whole story? What if his withdrawal has nothing to do with your value? What if it's not that he lost interest at all? What if he's actually terrified, paralyzed by how strong his feelings for you have become? It sounds backward. It goes against everything we've been taught about romance. We're told that when someone feels deeply, they move closer, they pursue harder, they don't pull away. But for some men, the deepening of an emotional bond doesn't feel like a sunrise. It feels like a tidal wave, overwhelming, out of control. And that intensity can trigger deep subconscious fears that tell them to retreat, not because they feel less, but because they feel too much. Today we're pulling back the curtain on this confusing and often heartbreaking dynamic. This isn't about excusing his behavior, and it's not about letting him off the hook. It's about understanding, so you can free yourself from self-blame and finally see what's happening with clarity. We're going to explore the hidden fears that cause a man to run right when things start to feel real, so you can stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start understanding what might actually be happening inside his head. One of the most powerful, and often invisible, reasons a man might pull back is a deep primal fear of vulnerability. From a young age, many men are handed a script for how to be a man. They grow up hearing things like, "Boys don't cry," "Toughen up," and over time those messages from family, from culture, teach them that emotions equal weakness, strength becomes stoicism, independence, control, and emotional openness. That's seen as dangerous. Think of it like this. They're taught to speak one language, the language of strength and logic, but a deep, intimate relationship requires fluency in an entirely different language, the language of feelings, of fears. So when your connection starts to deepen, it's like he's being asked to give a soul-bare speech, in a language he was taught to avoid his entire life. He doesn't freeze because he doesn't care. He freezes because he doesn't have the words. Revealing his inner self feels incredibly risky, like a knight who spent his whole life believing his armor is the only thing keeping him safe. True emotional intimacy asks him to take that armor off, and suddenly his mind fills with what-ifs. What if she thinks I'm weak? What if my insecurities get used against me? What if she sees the real me and leaves? Often this fear isn't random. It comes from past moments where vulnerability led to pain or betrayal. So when he starts to fall for you, he isn't just feeling excitement, he's also feeling exposed. His brain, wired for self-protection, can register intimacy not as a gift but as a threat. The feelings become so strong that he no longer feels in control, and for someone taught that control equals safety, losing control feels like losing himself. An internal alarm goes off, so he pulls away, he creates distance, he goes cold, not because his feelings disappeared, but because this is his instinctive attempt to feel safe again, to steady himself, to put the armor back on. He isn't running from you, he's running from the overwhelming discomfort of his own vulnerability. A second powerful fear that can make a man retreat is the perceived threat to his autonomy. For many people, being self-reliant isn't just a preference, it's a survival strategy learned early in life. Some grow up learning that the only person they can truly depend on is themselves. Maybe their caregivers were emotionally distant. teaching them that needing someone else only leads to disappointment. As an adult, this turns into a fierce protection of freedom. In the early casual stages of dating, everything feels easy. It's fun, it's exciting, there's plenty of space to breathe, but as feelings deepen and the relationship shifts from you and me toward a shared we, his internal alarms begin to blare. Imagine his independent life like a single-player video game. He spent years mastering it. He knows every control, every level, every shortcut. He's the champion of his own world. To him, a serious relationship can feel like the game suddenly switching to a mandatory co-op mode, one he never practiced and doesn't trust. The merging of two lives, beautiful to you, can feel to him like losing control of his own character. And that confusion you felt earlier, this is where it intensifies. This fear isn't always logical, and it's not always about something you did. You could be the most understanding partner in the world, but his fear comes from an internal blueprint. Where closeness has been coded as engulfment, commitment becomes a zero-sum game. For every step forward, he believes he must lose a piece of himself. His hobbies, his friendships, his alone time. The word WE, which sounds like partnership to you, can sound to him like the erasure of I. For someone with these deep-seated patterns, getting too close triggers an instinct to pull away, not to hurt you, but to feel like himself again. That's why he may go cold after a beautiful, intimate weekend. That moment of closeness, the very thing that felt magical to you, becomes the trigger for his need for space. To you, it feels like rejection. To him, he's just trying to catch his breath. The third dynamic that can cause a retreat is a destructive relational dance known as the pursue-withdraw cycle. It's one of the most common and maddening patterns in relationships, and it's fueled by two people just trying to feel safe in completely opposite ways. Here's how this painful dance unfolds. The man, often having those tendencies toward independence we just discussed, starts to feel overwhelmed by the increasing intimacy. To manage his anxiety, his instinct is to pull back and create space. From his perspective, this is a logical solution. I feel overwhelmed, so I need some air. The connection is dying. This triggers her own survival instinct, which is to close the distance and re-establish the connection at all costs. You, feeling a sudden and terrifying chill from his distance, panic and rush over to crank the heat up. You try to get closer by texting more, calling to check in, or asking for reassurance. To you, you're just trying to get the warmth back. But to the man who is already feeling too hot, it feels like you're blasting a furnace in his face, making him feel even more desperate to back away. This creates a vicious cycle. The more he withdraws, the more anxious you feel. The more anxious you feel, the more you pursue. The more you pursue, the more suffocated he feels, and the more he withdraws. It's so important to understand that in this dynamic there is no villain. It's a pattern of mismatched needs. His withdrawal isn't necessarily a sign that he's lost interest. It's often a reaction to feeling pressured by the very connection you are fighting so hard to save. If this is making things click for you so far, it really helps if you hit like, and if you'd like more psychology-based breakdowns on relationships and attachment, you can subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The fourth major reason a man might suddenly pull away is something known as emotional flooding. Imagine his emotional processing system is like a quiet, two-lane country road. It's calm, manageable, and he knows how to navigate it. He handles his day-to-day feelings, work stress, happiness, minor frustrations with ease. Falling in love with you, however, is like turning that quiet country road into an 8-lane superhighway during rush hour, with a sudden massive influx of new and intense feelings. Deepening intimacy requires a high degree of emotional work. It's not just about saying I love you, it's about being present, listening, empathizing, sharing his own feelings, and navigating all the excitement and fear that comes with a real connection. As his feelings for you grow, the demand on his emotional system skyrockets. The mix of intense love, excitement, and that terrifying fear of vulnerability we talked about can create a massive internal traffic jam. He may simply not have the conditioning to handle that much emotional traffic at once. When this overload happens, his brain's primary instinct is to shut everything down, to prevent a total system crash. Pulling away, becoming silent, or focusing intensely on something else like work or a hobby is his attempt to turn down the volume. Think of it like needing to step out of a loud, chaotic party, into the quiet of the night just to hear yourself think. He's not leaving because he hates the party. He's leaving because the sheer stimulation has become too much. That silence you're experiencing is not always a reflection of his feelings for you. It's often a tool he's using to self-soothe. The tragedy is that from your perspective, his silence feels like indifference. But from his, it can be a desperate act of self-preservation. He may not lack feelings for you. He may just lack the practiced ability to manage the sheer intensity of those feelings. Finally, we arrive at one of the most confusing and emotionally draining dynamics of all, the push-pull behavior of someone with a fearful-avoidant attachment style. This pattern is often rooted in a childhood where the same person, a parent or caregiver, was a source of both comfort and fear. The person who was supposed to be a safe harbor was also the storm. As an adult, this creates a profound and deeply painful internal conflict. They desperately crave intimacy, but are also fundamentally terrified of it. This creates a heartbreaking paradox. It's like being a starving person who is also deathly allergic to the very food they need to survive. A man with this attachment style is caught in an impossible bind. When he is distant from you, his fear of being alone kicks in. This fear makes him desperate for intimacy, so he will pursue you intensely. He pulls you in close, showers you with affection, and makes you feel like the center of his universe. In those moments, you feel the profound depth of his need for connection. However, the moment he gets that closeness, the moment he has what he craves, his other more primal fear kicks in. His brain instinctively associates intimacy with danger, pain, and betrayal. His entire nervous system screams at him to get away. So just as you finally feel safe and secure, he has to push you away. This push can look like him suddenly picking a fight over nothing, disappearing for days without explanation, or becoming intensely critical and cold. He does this not because he's no longer interested in your love, but because his system is utterly convinced that getting too close will ultimately destroy him. He has to create distance to feel safe again. This is that devastating push-pull cycle that can leave you feeling perpetually confused and emotionally whiplashed. It's crucial to understand this is rarely a game. He is playing to manipulate you. It is the external result of a profound internal war. When he pulls away, it's not because he lost interest. It's because the connection became real. And for him, real connection is terrifyingly linked to the expectation of real pain. As we've seen, when a man pulls away just as a connection is getting deep, it's rarely a simple story. Sometimes, yes, a person pulling away simply means they've lost interest or realized you're not compatible. And that is a valid reason. But often it's far more complex. He might be grappling with a powerful internal storm, a paralyzing fear of vulnerability, a perceived threat to his independence, the destructive pursue-withdraw cycle, pure emotional overload, or the agonizing push-pull of his own attachment fears. Understanding these possibilities is not about absolving him of responsibility for his actions. This knowledge is about liberating you. It's about shifting your internal narrative from painful self-blame to compassionate understanding. His withdrawal is not always a referendum on your worth. It is often a reflection of his own internal landscape, his past, and his deepest fears, a clash of deep-seated needs and conditioned fears. This clarity gives you the power to choose how you respond, not from reactive anxiety, but from centered calm. You can decide if you have the emotional capacity to offer space and patience, or if this dynamic is simply not what you want or deserve in a partnership. Either choice is completely valid, but it's a choice you can now make from clarity and self-respect, not rejection. What is your experience with this? Have you ever felt someone pull away right when things were getting good? Share your story in the comments below. Reading through each other's experiences is an incredibly powerful way to know that you are not alone. And if this video resonated with you and brought you some clarity, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe. Your support helps this community grow and allows me to create more content to help you navigate the beautiful and sometimes very confusing world of connection.